And here we are back again for another episode of the Money Honey podcast. Thank you once again. If you are tuning in and you are a loyal listener, you mean so much to the contribution of this community. And that's exactly what this is. I've explained before why I've called it the Money Honey, and I'll go into that in just a moment. So if you're new, I'll explain where all this came from and why you are a Money Honey. The guest on the show is a Money Honey, and I'm the Money Honey host. So I'm Rosalia Lazzarettilli, and I'm your host for today. I am also the CEO and founder of Manuka Media, which is a personal branding and social media agency for people in property and finance. Why? Because you tell me, when you go, like, I've never had, I always like using this analogy, and never doesn't mean I never will, but up until now, I have not yet needed to or felt like having Botox. Okay, I'll just put that out there, right? I've never had it. But when I've like woken up a little bit puffy and I'm like, oh my God, is it time? Is now the time? I've gone to a friend and said, like, if you were to recommend, a good Botox specialist, who would it be? And instantaneously, everyone's like, oh my God, you've got to go to my friend Sam. Sam is going to sort you out. She's not too much. She's not too little. She's just right. Like, it's amazing. Like, she is my girl. Whenever I feel a bit like, I go to her. I'm like, wonderful. Thank you. I will take Sam's details. Now let's reverse that and say, when I've been to friends and I've said I'm on furlough, or I've been made redundant, or my business is not doing as well as I thought it would be doing. Also, I'm not employed anymore. I'm self-employed. So I don't know what to do. Like, should I have my own pension? And if I say to my friends, like, do you know like an advisor that you would speak to? They're like, no, actually, no, there isn't. And I'm like, interesting how you have a Botox specialist at your fingertips, but not a financial advisor. So what are we doing here? What do we pay Botox with? Money. How do we send our kids to school? How do we have a roof over our heads? Money. So if we're not talking about money, and we're not talking about how to make it, how to save it, how to grow it, how to invest it, what are we doing? So after 10 years of being in this industry, so it'll be my 10-year anniversary in 2025 that I've been doing property finance, been around mortgages all my life. And obviously, if a friend came to me and said, I need to get on the property ladder, I don't know what to do, I've got like a whole phone book of brokers that I can recommend. Or if someone said to me, I want to get into property, I'm like, right, so what kind of property? What do you want? Like, I'm there like their interior designer of properties, like their ASOS shop of properties. I'm like, what kind of property do you want? Because I can find you either a sourcer or a developer, or I'll find you someone that can help you. So I wanted this podcast to be an empowering show that would give people the knowledge, tools, and the people that they can connect with to gain that it's, think of this like your ASOS shop for property and money. Like, you can shop on here, and maybe the Money Honey today on the show is your Money Honey. Like, this is exactly the person that you were meant to hear from today. Or maybe it's a show that's coming out next week, or the one that came out last week. Or maybe it's you. Like, how do you consider that maybe you own a voice or a message that someone is desperate to hear, but you're not here sharing it? So that's why I said we're all Money Honeys, because we are women in property, finance, and construction. This show is dedicated to women, but I work with mostly men in the industry, because that's just what it's always, it's been more male dominant. But I'm here to change that. I'm here to showcase that there are so many brilliant, talented women in this industry. So speaking of brilliant, talented women in this industry, I am introducing you today to a divine of a woman who runs Komo Properties. Her name is Kim Opszala. I think I've said that name wrong. She's going to correct me later. But she runs Komo Properties and started in 2016 with her husband, Mike. And her key message for today is how you can have a business like property that will allow you to have the flexible dream lifestyle that you thought perhaps was not accessible. Because Kim loves traveling, her and her family. So her and Mike have one child, and they actually travel together all the time. We met each other at a barbecue, and she had just got back from a trip. So she flew in, came to a property barbecue, and then flew back. It was just like, yeah, that is the lifestyle that property can give you. But we're going to find out today how she did it. And what she actually does. Now, they specialize in acquiring rundown or derelict properties and then developing them and adding value via planning permission and then managing the properties in-house. So they've got, an eye for interior design. It's actually inspired from their Caribbean heritage and their European campervan travels. So they've got like a warm and summery feeling to their strategy or to their properties, and they want that welcoming and vibrant atmosphere. So I love the energy, the warmth, the positivity that comes with Komo Properties. So I'm really, really excited to introduce you to Kim. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, thank you so much. What a lovely introduction. And thank you for having me on. Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Pleasure. Honestly, thank you for making the time. I know, if I may say so, what this is like. Like, you were like, oh, you know, you schedule things and it's like family comes up and then kid, all of this. So thank you for really working around this schedule. Like, it's really and that's why I do it online, because I would love to have cocktails and coffee face to face, but I just want to make it really accommodating wherever you are in the world, whether you're with your kids or you're traveling or whatever. Yeah, so thank you for making time to be here.
No, thank you for having me. Honestly, I know we scheduled this quite a while back, didn't we? And I didn't realise it was half term and had a bit of a panic, but we arranged childcare, and yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Honestly, I will obviously honor this time that we've got together and make the most out of it. So please tell us, who are you, what do you do, and what are you here to share with us?
Yeah, so you did pronounce my name correctly. I'm Kim Opszala, one half of Komo Properties, which I run with my husband Mike. And yes, we've been investing since 2016, predominantly in HMOs, but we also have blocks of flats. And the HMOs are let to professionals and students. And yes, we manage those ourselves. Before property, and I still am a lawyer. So I've won a few awards in my legal career. So I'm a mergers and acquisitions lawyer. So specialising in buying and selling businesses, joint ventures, that sort of thing. And we basically got into property kind of as a result of my work. So working in a large law firm, in mergers and acquisitions, highly stressful job, very long hours. Mike was a chef at the time, so I was working, up to 100 hours a week, usually during the day, obviously into the night, and Mike worked nights and weekends, so we were ships passing in the night. And you get to a point where you sort of think, is this it? Is this what our life is? We sort of don't get to spend a lot of quality time together. We live for a week or two's holidays, and then it's back to work. So yeah, that is why I suppose we started looking at having our own business and sort of being in control of our income, so that we could have that sort of freedom, because we knew that for the long term, that lifestyle just wasn't sustainable for us. It wasn't, we wanted to have a family, and just when you look at how working those hours, and especially on opposite timescales, would work, we knew that we didn't want that in the long term. So we started looking at other businesses. We had an Amazon business actually, sort of around 2013, 14, and we ran that for a few years, and it was successful, but it was not hands off. We were constantly having to come up with new products, sorting out shipping, and yeah, so we sort of sold that business a couple of years after we'd started it, but it did really well whilst it was running. And I think it was 2015. I know it's very cliche, but we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. We're on holiday. I read it, loved it, and made Mike read it straight after and said, "You've got to read this." And that book just changed our complete mindset at the time. You know, we were working hard. We'd had this other business, but it nowhere near replaced our income. It just gave us some extra cash. And that book, at the time we read that book, we were overpaying on our mortgage because we were like, you know, want to get that debt down, clear the mortgage. And reading that, we thought, actually, you know, you see mortgage as a good debt. And actually, we could leverage our house and the work we'd done to it. And that's what we did. We came back from that holiday and spoke to someone who invested locally. And we invested our small pot of savings at the time with them. And it was an earn and learn. So basically, we loaned money for a fixed interest rate, but we were able to see what they were doing. And they were doing HMOs. So they showed us, you know, behind the scenes, how the business worked, how they were acquiring them. So it was a fantastic start in property to sort of get that real life insight into what it is to run a property business. So we invested with them. And I think it had such a big impact on us. It's one of the ways that we work with investors now. So we do earn and learns for people that are looking to get into property, because we've done a lot of education since then, but there was nothing like learning from someone who was actually doing it and being able to go on site visits and see it, you know, see projects from start to finish. So yeah, we invested with them, and then we did some education. And in 2016, we bought our first property, which was a block of flats, a small block of flats. And then we educated ourselves a bit more and discovered HMOs. I think the block of flats is a fantastic asset. We still have it now. It's great. But we didn't have the cash to do that lots of times. We knew we needed cash flow. If I was going to replace my income and to step away from the chef job, we needed cash flow, and HMOs was just a fantastic strategy for that. So we started doing HMOs in 2018. And we've been doing them since. We are now looking to diversify again, because we're sort of at almost 60 tenants now in the HMO business. And we're sort of thinking, you know, we need to diversify a little bit and have other asset types in property. We love property, so I can't see us doing anything else now. But we're looking at potentially commercial, mixed use, that sort of thing, just so that we're not overexposed in terms of HMOs and private rented accommodation. There's a lot of change coming, and I think it's important to have, you know, multiple streams from different types of assets in property. So yeah, that's a whistle stop tour about us and how we've got to where we are now.
Love it, because you're absolutely right. I think that book, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it was what I read about 12 years ago. I read that alongside The Secret. I read that alongside Dare to Dream, Work to Live, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an Amazon business, but I had something else. It was it's network marketing. So I knew there was like,
Yes.
and that was all right. Yeah, that I did that for like 5 years, and that was going okay. It wasn't exactly the rock star money that I thought it was going to be, but you know, not everyone, but it was the best. Like, it was literally like paying for. It was a cheaper version than an MBA. Like, it taught me everything about sales, presenting, networking, you know, the resilience. So yeah, all these like take us to where we need to be, right, and who we are today.
Yeah.
But yeah, property was like that one thing that, you know, my family started with. They started with, like, my granddad was a shepherd from Sicily, like, you know, farmer, came over to England and was like, didn't even know what he was doing. Like, the way they bought houses was, I'm just going to buy one for my daughter and one for my other daughter, and then one for me to live in. And that was his strategy. He just and they all live near. So he just bought 3 houses near that. He wouldn't be here today being like, invest in your local area, an area that, you know, like, he wouldn't have it as like a formatted way. He was just like, I just wanted my daughters to live near me. And so he bought them houses that live near. But now it's like, there's strategies, there's tax efficient investments, there's this, there's that. So what would you say to someone who, obviously starting at 2016 and 2018 puts you in a fortuitous opportunity, or yeah, you were in a different era of what we're looking at now.
Yes.
So what is someone looking at it today? What is a good opportunity to get started? How could you get started in property?
I think today there is so much more free information available. You know, social media is fantastic, YouTube, and you know, there's so many more books about property investing, and I think that would be my first step. Listening to podcasts, there's some fantastic podcasts, reading books, watching YouTube videos, and I think immersing yourself in property. You're absolutely right. There are so many strategies. And in property, we call it shiny penny syndrome, when there's just so much that you can do. And some of them look fantastic and you can get distracted and lose your focus. So I think the key thing is sort of immersing yourself at the start, and setting your goals. I think it's so important to know what your goal is, because there are certain strategies that lend themselves well to a certain lifestyle, and there's others that don't. So, for example, HMOs, when you're self-managing like we do, it is, you know, it's a job in itself. We've got a team around us now, but you still are, well, you're legally responsible, you know, from a regulatory perspective, but you are always kind of dipping in and out of the business. It's not as hands off as, for example, the blocks of flats, which, you know, we have single let tenants there. A couple of them actually we've now let to an emergency accommodation provider. So that is completely hands free. They manage it, they pay the bills, and we don't hear anything from that property. I can't say the same for the HMO portfolio. So for someone who's looking to do something that they want to be hands off, I would say, you know, buy to lets, they're not as lucrative, but you will maintain that sort of life of not having to constantly be on call. HMOs, great cash flow, but there is that management aspect to it. So the only way you know which would suit you best is if you have those goals set. Is it time freedom? You know, are you looking to travel? What are you looking to do? And kind of picking a strategy that works well for that. That would be my kind of advice at the moment. I think I've always worked with a mentor. I know that people do amazingly well just watching a YouTube video and going and doing it. That's just not my risk. I just couldn't do that. I think when you're a lawyer, you have a very low risk appetite. And for me, I like to learn from people who are doing it, have done it, are experts in it. Hence, like, you know, the earn and learn that we first started with. So I always have, over the years, I've had different mentors depending on what we're looking for at the time. I've had like a branding and mentor, the HMOs. At the moment, I'm being mentored by someone who specifically does commercial property because that's what we're looking to do. So I think it is important to, if not having a mentor, surrounding yourself with people who are doing what you're doing. And networking is fantastic for that.
Exactly, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like all the best athletes, you know, whether they run or they play tennis or they swim, every one of them has a coach behind the scenes that's talking to them in their ear, you know,
Yeah,
psyching them up, getting them ready, giving them the skills, keeping them accountable. Like you don't become an athlete because you can do it all on your own and you just watch someone do it, and you watched a YouTube video of how to, you know, hold your tennis racket properly. Like that's not gonna get you to play with, you know, at the big levels. So yeah, I have a
absolutely.
you know, I like working with personal trainers. Like I love being at the gym with a personal trainer. Like it makes me perform a lot better. All my clients who come to me for branding or social media or content guidance, they've already got a really successful business. They are successful without me, but they are going next level with me. So that's just the difference
That's
between working with
exactly it.
someone. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what a mentor is there for. Are you ever mentor? Do you ever mentor people? Are you a mentor for anyone else?
No, so I did a couple of years ago. I did it, but when we started traveling, it became more and more difficult to schedule in, and so I've kind of stepped away from it. I do it on the earn and learn basis, and so we have a few investors at the moment who are looking to get into property investment and have invested with us on ongoing projects. So I do one-to-one sessions with them, but only on that. I don't tend to do it, for a sort of paid per hour or on a sort of
Oh yeah,
program.
so but you
Um,
can invest for others, right? For other property investors. So what's your strategy then for other investors? What's your like key areas? What are you a specialist in? And if a property investor was listening to this, um, what would what would they get from working with you? Where would you take them? How would you help them?
um, I think if somebody's in it already, I suppose it would depend if they're not in HMOs. That would be our specialism. So I think the HMO side of thing, because of my legal background, we're very hot on the compliance and regulatory side. So part of the coaching that I do for people that invest in our business is on that. Also, sourcing deals. Most of our deals are direct to vendor. So we have a strategy where we market direct, which a lot of people don't do. They buy through agents. So that's another niche, I suppose, that we have. And also the self-management side. So the systems and processes that you need to manage. I think the key thing for us is that back in 2022, we sold our house and we went traveling in our self-converted camper van. So Mike, my husband, it was a COVID thing. So going into COVID, I had a newborn. I'd actually been really unwell for the last trimester of my pregnancy. I was in hospital. After my son was born, he was delivered early. He was in intensive care. I was in intensive care. It was a very scary, horrible time. But it completely changed our mindset on, at that point, we had our property business and it was going well, but we just realised we were working really hard still. We enjoyed it, of course, more than sort of our jobs before, but we were working really hard still. And that's when we went into lockdown, and it was sort of, I think we just had a period of reflection and somehow ended up being like, we love traveling. I'd traveled a lot ever since I was sort of 18. I'd traveled to Australia and things. And then when Mike and I got together, we traveled a lot as well. And we were just like, COVID, I think, made a lot of people think differently about life. And we were just like, life's too short. Let's buy a van, convert it. There's some fantastic influencers and YouTube videos on it. So we were just like, let's do it. And so we did. We spent a year converting the camper van, and then in 2022 we sold our house and moved into the camper van. So a lot of people know us for that, because we've grown our property business and run our property business from a camper van with a toddler, traveling Europe for 3 months at a time, and then coming home for 3 months and then
Maybe
going traveling again.
your husband and the toddler in a van.
Yes, yeah.
How big is this van?
Not big enough, no. It's quite
Oh, I
big. Uh,
don't know if I could do
so
it.
a Mercedes Sprinter, like the Amazon delivery vans, the big ones. It's that size, so it's a decent size. So obviously we have a bed. Our little one has a bed. We've got a kitchen. We've got a shower, toilet. I was quite diva about the van conversion. I was like, I want everything on board. I don't want to be, having to
Wait,
find a
to be honest.
shower and things like that.
Where are you right now? Because your kitchen looks wonderful. Where are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm home now. So yeah, so we did this for
Oh,
two
so you
and a
still
half
have a
years.
house?
Now we do. So we sold our house, we travelled, and then basically our son started school last month. So we were able to travel whenever we wanted and do what we wanted effectively. But we've always known, once he started school, we had a decision to make: homeschool and carry on, traveling, or put him into conventional school. And it was a tough decision. I think because he's an only child, and he's so sociable. And I think the only thing with the traveling is we didn't meet a lot of families like us. There tended to be more retirees or, sort of not people with young children. And if they were, they might not speak English, and there was that barrier. So whenever we were home, I'm part of a big family. He's got lots of cousins, my son. So, and he just thrived. And we thought, it's just with me and Mike for months on end, and we decided school was the right route. So yeah, last year we bought a 1960s complete wreck, and we sort of did it up whilst traveling. So we'd come home for 3 months and sort of project manage and then travel again. And it was finished just around Christmas time. It was sort of New Year. And then so we've had this house here since then, and obviously we're now in the right school catchment. And yeah, it's a funny time at the moment because this is our first half term, and we're sort of settling into traditional life again after
Is it
2.5
weird living
years.
in a house? Is it
It's
strange
so
for your
nice.
boy to live? It's nice.
I think we
Yeah,
I think
it is nice.
because you obviously in the van we literally all had we have these little packing cubes, and we had like 3 each, and you live for 3 months out of those. So you go from having a wardrobe and loads of shoes and to nothing, and we put everything in storage as well. So we didn't even, when we were home, we didn't really have access to our things. But it was such a nice way of living. Like, we loved it. We loved that kind of, yeah. And it's funny now that we're back in the house, we were like, we're not going to get loads of things. But you know, you get back in the house and everything sort of happens again. But we find it so luxurious, you know, having an oven. We don't have an oven in the van. So it's just a big fridge, you know. It's funny how you take things, you take things like that for granted, but when you're on the road, we just don't have that sort of luxuries.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, that is a great way. I mean, I know people that have converted their camper van, but only because they go camping or they go on holidays for long distances, but they don't want to get hotels. And so it's a
Yes,
very
yeah,
economic way of like traveling a lot without spending a lot of money, which is
yeah,
phenomenal.
it
And I
really is.
would travel I travel in your one because your one sounds good, but not the ones I've seen. If I can borrow yours anytime, I would do that, but only for like if me and Matt were like, oh, should we go to Cornwall for the weekend? And we were going to just drive there, like I couldn't. And my cat, where would I put my cat? Like, I can't have a litter
So
tray
many
in the van.
people,
Oh,
honestly,
no.
they travel with pets. They have little like areas for the pets. Yeah, no, you
Go
are in a
mad.
confined space. I think for us, when we're traveling, we spend very little time in the van. Obviously,
Fair enough.
we're in Italy, we're in Spain, France. The weather's amazing. We're out all day, so it was probably harder when we were in England and the weather was rubbish and we were actually having to be in the van. And then you are, 3 of you in a very confined space. But we just got used to it, I
Oh, so
think. And my little boy, sorry, I was
sorry,
just
when
going to
you
say, he
used to come
knows no
back into
different.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna like. Does he? Sorry about the lag there. But does he now live in a house and he's like, whoa, like what is this? Does
Yeah, he
he?
loves it. Like even like today, we came home and he just loves his bedroom. And I mean, we have been home now for a few months, but I don't think the novelty's worn off. And I
Oh,
think
that's so.
sometimes he says things to his school friends, and I think they think, "What on earth about family?" Like he'll say, "This is great," and it's like something really basic, and I'm like, "It's
But
just
isn't
because
that?
he's."
But that's what we take for granted. Like a lot of things that we have are not actually that basic. It's just that we don't see how others might not have the privilege of accessing. And the fact that he's got his own little bedroom, like that's really sweet. Like
Yeah,
there's some kids growing up that they don't have a bedroom for themselves, or they have to share with like a bully of a like sibling or something. It's not really.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
gosh, that's so.
absolutely. And I think you hit a really good point there, because one of the things I think we not struggle with, but you want to make sure that he's had such a fortunate life. He's travelled to sort of 25 countries and he's four. He's but we want him to still have that sense of how fortunate he is, and that hard work mentality, because the reason that we've been able to do this is because Mike and I have worked really hard. So we do really try to instill that in him, and sort of the giving back element. So we always, like, it's coming up to his birthday and we always go through his toys and we take them. He picks a charity shop and we say, this is going to children who might not be able to afford these things. And I think just little things like that. We want him to know that, you know, he's very fortunate in the start he's had. And obviously for us, we're really proud that we've been able to give him that, because neither of us had that growing up. But yeah, we don't want him to grow up thinking, you know, traveling the world is just, you
Oh
know,
yeah, it just
normal.
happens.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that is wonderful. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you've done the sacrifices. Like, not everyone would sell their house, get a van, and then go traveling the world. I mean, you can afford, like, if you did want to do that, yeah, you can sell your house. And so, yeah, guys, you know, today what I wanted to bring to you is someone who has done those drastic moves, who has made drastic moves to be able to achieve the lifestyle that is in keeping with their values, right? So Kim and
Yeah.
Mike wanted a life of flexibility and travel, which sometimes feels like, you know, when you have a house and a mortgage and your bills and everything, you don't, you know, you feel like you're stuck in that place. But yeah, if you want it so bad enough, then yeah, sell your house, convert your camper van, go traveling. You can do it. I think that's the message you wanted to come today with, isn't it, Kim? That you can do what it is
Yeah,
that you want to do.
exactly. That's it. And I think, like I said, back at the start, having a goal, setting a goal. I'm very much into the 12-week year. So
Yes.
I have a annual goal, and I set out, right, if I want to hit that goal at the end of the year, what do I need to do in this quarter? And I track back and make sure that I do. And that's effectively what we did back in 2021. And we made sure that we were able to live that dream. And I think if you are in property, one thing I would say is you do need a team around you. You know, there are emergencies and things that happen. So over the conversion period, whilst we were doing the van up, we made sure that we had the systems in place. And even when we went, you know, the first trip, we learned from that and tweaked things. And even now we're still tweaking, but I think it's important to say, you know, that you can do it, you, with or without children. I think a lot of people see barriers in living their dream life, and a lot of it is stigmatism in, you know, it's not normal to sell your house and drive off in a van. And actually, if that's what you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to want to do it, as in, you know, me and Matt travel a lot. We don't have kids, but we like going away little and often. And we, you know, like next week we're going to Paris for 2 nights, and um, you know, we do like exploring the world, but we've not ever been in that situation where we've got a family and then we're like, oh, how do we keep? So every life brings like new challenges and new opportunities. So when you know, we
Absolutely.
at the moment our biggest like thought is, if we're going away, we have to get some sort of care for the cat, because I'd love to travel with the cat, but she can't. It's not fair on her, because even though she's got a passport. By the way, my cat has a Polish passport. Tell Mike. Yeah, she. So basically, she's a Siberian breed. But
Okay.
the owner, like the original breeder, is Polish, but then she from Poland moved to Germany, so had to get the cat's passport. So she's got a Polish
I
passport.
didn't know that animals had passports. I've learned something. I'm
Yeah.
allergic to like everything, so
Oh
I've
no.
never had
Oh.
pets.
Right, okay. I don't know if you can get a goldfish a passport, but you can definitely get cats and dogs passports. But yeah, the only flight she's ever taken is to come from Germany to England, because then they came to England and then we picked her up in the car. And she was only like 13 weeks old or whatever. But yeah, she came with a little passport and everything. So we'd love to one day take her on a trip, but it's got to be like worth the trip, because it's very stressful for them.
Yeah,
So um but yeah, you know, that at the moment that's on our minds. It's like every time we want to go away, we need to make sure that she's looked after, you know. And then one day we might
yeah.
be in a position where we're like, okay, we've got a kid and they're at school, we don't have the same flexibility as before, what do we do? So, you know, go with, yeah, like you say, every year is a new year, and whatever your goals are for that year, try and work your way around them.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's drastic,
absolutely.
sometimes it isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, life
Okay,
changes,
well,
doesn't it?
exactly, life changes. And yeah, no, but thank you so much. As we wrap this up, Kim, is there anything that you want to say to the listeners, that you want to leave them with, a particular message from today?
I think I've said it. You know, work out what your dream life is. It might be travel, it might be something else, it might be volunteering, giving back, and just build a life around you that allows you to do that. A fantastic book that I always recommend is called Die with Zero. And it's about
I with
living your
zero.
best life now. Yeah, die with zero. So not saving for retirement and waiting for retirement to do things. It's about living life for the now. Because you don't know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah.
And you know what, on that note, like we're about to have, when we're recording this, the budget hasn't come out yet. And there's been loads of people in property who own property, have invested in property. And now the budget might feel like they're not getting the investment that they once thought they were getting. And you know, they're like, oh, but property is for like the future, the future, the future. And then when I retire, and then now we don't know what's going to happen. But that's the thing. It's like, how can you find a way to enjoy yourself today and now, but still, you know, if you're like me or like my family, like we do want to make sure that we do wake up in the future and still feel proud that we did something to benefit our future.
Yeah.
We just, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just sensible to
Yeah.
be like,
Legacy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But thank you for that recommendation on the book. I really am going to get my hands on that ASAP. And for anybody, of course, who wants to continue the conversation and follow Kim's journey around the world with her camper van and around the world with her family, please check out the show notes with the details to Kim's social media channels. Kim's a very, very busy person. So a big thank you again for making yourself available to be here today. And I will catch you. Thank you for coming, by the way, to the Ladies Who Can event.
It was
I really appreciate
fantastic.
it.
Thank you for,
Thank you.
it was
Thank
great.
you for representing. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Well, and that is it, guys. If you enjoyed the show, please give Kim a big thumbs up or reach out to Kim to continue that conversation, and stay tuned for the next Money Honey episode, which is out every Friday at 8 a.m. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.